Rawad is a pioneer in the IT industry for over a decade and has been consistently driving innovation and has reshaped the information technology landscape in the region of Saudi Arabia. Rawad has been driving these innovations based on its comprehensive IT 360 business model, where we are dedicated to bring cutting-edge solutions to our clients, ensuring that they remain at the forefront of technological advancements. We have a strong presence physically in Jeddah and Dammam, and our commitment to excellence is reflected in the solutions that we have been providing in the past and even now, and building our relationships with our clients. To support that, we have two support teams staffed by experts from Pakistan and India, enhancing our expertise and capability, which allows us to deliver exceptional service and support. Our expertise and our services include cybersecurity, networking, cloud solutions, vulnerability scanning and penetration testing, backup and recovery solutions. We also offer security management, data center management with endpoint security, email security, and network security. For all these expertise and services, we also offer annual maintenance contracts, ensuring our clients receive the ongoing support they need. At Rawad, we are proud and we leverage our accumulated business intelligence to make decisions that positively impact our clients so that they can get innovative solutions that drive the success for them. Today, I am excited to introduce Sangfor, a company that aligns perfectly with our commitment to excellence and innovation. Sangfor Technology is a leading global vendor specializing in IT infrastructure security solutions. With a strong focus on research and development, Sangfor delivers cutting-edge technologies that empower businesses to stay ahead in ever-evolving digital landscape. Sangfor's exclusive and comprehensive portfolio includes solutions in cybersecurity, cloud computing, and IT infrastructures. Their innovative products and services, such as next generation firewalls, endpoint security, secure web gateways, and hyper converged infrastructures, also known as HCI, are designed to enhance the security, efficiency, and performance for our clients and their IT environments. At Rawad, we are proud to partner with Sangfor to bring their advanced solutions to our clients by integrating Sangfor technologies with our expertise. We offer robust and scalable solutions that meet the unique needs of each client, ensuring their IT infrastructure is secure, efficient, and future-proof. To drive the webinar further, I would request Mr. Hadi to tell us our agenda for today and explain how the challenges we are facing. Over to you, Mr. Hadi.
Thank you so much, Junaid. So today we'll be talking about these four things. This is our agenda today. The main challenges in endpoint security, how we can improve your endpoint security posture,
and explain
resolving
how
challenges
the challenges
with
we are
Sangfor
facing.
Endpoint Secure,
Over
and
to
then
you, Mr.
embarking on
Hadi.
your security journey. And throughout, if you have any questions, please hold on to them because we will be doing a Q&A at the end of the session. All right. Now, before we dive into endpoint security, what is an endpoint? An endpoint is any device that has access to your organization's network. Now, this could be any computer or a phone or a printer or any router that your business or employees use for work purposes. Endpoint security refers to the protection of these endpoints against unauthorized access or misuse, modification, or destruction by hackers using malware. So any device that connects to your organization's network from outside its firewall is basically an endpoint. Now, there is an increasing trend to bring more devices into work, which means that more endpoints. So an organization can quickly have a large number of endpoints, bringing the exclusive need of endpoint security. So the question is, what are the main problems that we are facing with endpoint security? Now, as you all know, having a traditional antivirus is it's like locking your house with a key. Sure, you can go to sleep with the key under your pillow, but we all know anybody could break in if they really wanted to. Traditional antiviruses can protect you as much as martial arts can protect you against somebody with a gun. It's limited. On the other hand, endpoint security provides a more complete and comprehensive approach. I want to share some statistics with you here, all right? An attack occurs every 39 seconds. 92% of all malware is delivered by email, the same emails that you share with your colleagues, with your clients. And 62% of all attacks were compromised of non-malware methods, which means fileless methods, which means an attacker gains access to your system without any files. And 71% of the organizations were where infection spread from one employee to another in an email, in a WhatsApp message. Now, we wouldn't want that to happen to us. Another interesting thing that I would like to share with you is the Lockbit attack that happened on the UK's Royal Mail. Now, Royal Mail is the UK's national postal service. Now, when this attack happened, it completely paralyzed the international mail delivery. Millions of letters and parcels were stuck in the company system. The parcel tracking website, online payment system, several other services were also crippled. And printers began spewing out copies of this Logbit Group's orange ransom note that you can see here. Now, I wouldn't want that to happen to any of us either, which is why we have to respond to threats as soon as possible. Now, if you look at the slide here, you will see threat invasion and how much time it takes for threat invasion. Now, what is threat invasion? Threat invasion is basically the moment an attacker breaches your defense. And as you can see in the slide, 75% of the time, it happens within minutes. Then you move to threat disclosure. Once inside your system, the attacker aims to steal your data. And again, most of this happens within seconds, minutes, or hours. This is how the attacker is functioning. Now, what about threat discovery? Threat discovery basically measures the time it takes for an organization to realize that it has been compromised. Alarmingly, you will see that 0% of the organization discover breaches within seconds or minutes, only 2% within hours. Usually, it takes them days, weeks, and most of the time, months. That's scary. What about threat governance? Once a breach is discovered, the next step is to contain and restore the systems. Now, this chart basically shows you that 0% of the organizations can do this in a second, about 1% in minutes, 9% in hours. And again, most of it is happening in days, weeks, months, or even years. So this is basically how the attackers are functioning in seconds, minutes, and hours. And how are we responding with traditional antiviruses? Days, weeks, months, sometimes even years. Basically, 85% of invasions are completed within minutes. Now, the longer the malware stays undiscovered, the bigger the impact on your business. Also, normal patching methods take too long, allowing uncontrolled rapid malware spread. Uh, these are also a few statistics about ransomware rising. You can read them on the screen here. But what I want to talk about, because most of us are in India and in Saudi Arabia, so I want to talk about the State of Ransomware in India 2024 report by Salesforce, which says that the average recovery cost of data in India is $1.35 million. This is excluding the ransom payments. $1.35 million. This is according to Sophos. If we talk about Saudi Arabia, this is a diagram representing the distribution of cyber attacks targeting Saudi Arabia organization divided by sectors. This is by SOC radar. So as you can see, 15% of attacks happened in retail trade, 14% in e-commerce, 13% in information services and telecommunication, 11% in finance and commercial banking. So if you are in these bottom 4 or 5 sectors or industries, so you need to step up your cybersecurity game. SOC Radar also said that over the previous 12 months, there have been detections of upwards of about 130 cyber incidents aimed at both kinds of organizations, private and public, within Saudi Arabia. Their security researchers also identified that 7 successful ransomware attacks were carried out by 5 different ransomware groups in Saudi Arabia at different times in 2023. Now, with all this being said, how do we then improve our endpoint security posture? That's the most natural next question that comes up. So let me break down the different approaches to endpoint security that we can take, all right? First off, on the left, you can see our traditional antiviruses. What they do is that they compare the malicious files against the known malware databases that are publicly available on the internet, all right? Then you can have a next generation antivirus, which you add on a few features like behavior analysis and AI, or you can have EDR, which is endpoint detection response. Now this performs detection and response to breaches after they have occurred or while they are occurring. What we need is a unified multi-layered approach, EPP, endpoint protection platform. It's a multi-layered solution that will combine prevention, detection, and management features, providing a more complete and comprehensive protection. So this umbrella of EPP holds together all of these 3 things. On the left, we have the prevention component with our traditional antivirus and next generation antivirus capabilities. So if any malware is detected, it is immediately neutralized. Now, how does it do that? It does that by real-time scanning, AI-based detection engines, by constantly monitoring the files and processes. The AI-based detection engines improve the accuracy, and they also reduce the false positives. So in the middle, you will see the detection and response, which focuses on the threats that have bypassed these initial defenses of the antivirus and the next generation antivirus. So we can detect persistent threats that stay in your system and they want to stay in your system, and we can map their activities also using the Mitre attack framework to understand and respond to the threats effectively. And finally, on the right, we have our endpoint management, through which we can maintain and monitor the overall health and security of your endpoint systems. You can see all of your assets and you can see what vulnerabilities are on those assets. You can perform application control, as in you can perform make a trusted zone, and you can allow certain applications to run, block certain applications, and you can also access your endpoints through remote support. As I had mentioned earlier, having a traditional antivirus is like, it's just like having a guard at a gate who only checks for known faces. If the enemy disguises themselves, the guard is completely clueless. So what we need is more than just gatekeepers. We need a multi-layered defense system. So if you'll see this diagram on the left, this is a funnel approach to endpoint protection platform techniques, all right? An attack comes from the top. Now, what we want to do is reduce this surface. So what we'll do is our solution is the host system controls. Host system controls is the widest part of the funnel, as we can see. These are basic access controls and system configurations that will apply to all of your endpoints. Basically, it's your first line of defense. Then, if the attack is in allowed channel, so it moves to the second part, then what can we do? Then we can perform application control, as you can see on the right. We'll allow only trusted applications to run. We'll block any unknown or suspicious applications. It's like having a bouncer at a party, ensuring that only the right people get in. Then we have application containment. We will isolate applications to prevent them from affecting the rest of the system if they are compromised. You can think of this as a quarantine for suspicious applications. Then you have application exploit protection and continuously assessing the vulnerabilities that come up. If an attack is restricted to allowed applications and it's using new methods, then we can move to machine learning for statistic file analysis. It's employed to detect previously unknown attacks. Basically, you build a machine learning model on known attacks, and then it can predict the unknown attacks. If an attack bypasses that to all traditional techniques of evasion, then we use deception. Deception as in using traps for attackers, like honeypots. Honeypots, we all know what honeypots are. Basically, it's like a simulation of a process that is specially made vulnerable so that the attacker attacks it, and then we can either block them or we can put the attacker in a simulated environment and learn about them, and we can catch those intruders like that, but they think they've made their way in. Or we can also use behavioral analysis. We can monitor the ongoing activities to detect any unusual or malicious behavior in real time. It's basically like having security cameras that alert guards to any suspicious movements. And if the attack bypasses all of this and it uses expert techniques and intensive correlation, and then we have the narrowest part where the attack complexity increases and we use EDR. This involves advanced techniques to detect and bypass all of the defenses. So Sangfor provides a complete protection of all of this in one unified agents. Then we would like to talk about how to resolve all of these challenges with Sangfor Endpoint Secure. So I'd like to call upon Mrs. Zaner back.
Thank you, Hadi. Thank you very much for such an insightful discussion on the challenges we have faced with the endpoint security in the past and how the modern solutions are addressing these challenges. Now, I would like to delve deeper into how Sangfor Endpoint Secure specifically addresses these challenges and provide a comprehensive solution for our clients. So, can you please change the slide, Mr. Hadi? Let me just share my screen, guys.
Yep. Yep. Here's the
Okay.
slide.
So first of all, how can we operate? We can reduce these attacks with attack surface reduction. For that, in Sangfor Endpoint Secure, we have asset managements, which ensures that all the hardware and software assets are shown. We are known that what assets we have. It provides us the visibility and control of all of our endpoints that we have in our organization. Think of it like having a detailed list of everything in your house where you know exactly what you have and you can make sure that everything is in the right place. After asset management, Sangfor Endpoint Secure has a security and configuration check, which ensures that systems are complying with the latest security standards. Like you can say, if you go to a doctor and you have a regular head checkup, which makes sure that everything in your body is functioning correctly. Just like that, uh, security and configuration check ensures that all the devices are up to date with the latest security standards. After security check, configuration check, we have vulnerability management, which identifies and patches potential security weaknesses. Imagine finding cracks in your wall and fixing them before they become a big problem for you. So vulnerability management finds out after finding those cracks, potentially patches them so that your security can be enhanced. Then we have visual patching and hot patching. Visual patching provides immediate and temporary fixes in with a Sangfor Endpoint Secure for vulnerabilities until a permanent patch can be applied. It's like putting a band-aid, like a bandage, on a cut to protect it until you can get a proper treatment. Then we have microsegmentation, which divides the network into isolated segments to prevent lateral threat movement. You can think of it as having multiple rooms in a house. If a thief gets into one room, they cannot easily access the other rooms. After microsegmentation, Sangfor has endpoints end of support protection. This support protection adds an extra layer of security for operating systems that are no longer supported by the vendors, just like Windows 7, Windows XP, and previous versions of operating systems. It's like adding an extra lock to an old door that a manufacturer no longer makes parts of. After the attack surface reduction, we have management in Endpoint Secure, where we have application control, which allows the administration to control which application can run. And we have USB control, which manages the use of USB devices to prevent any kind of data theft and malware introduction into your system. You can think of it as locking the USB ports of your computer to prevent anyone from plugging in any device to steal the data, or plugging in any harmful devices that can penetrate your system and cause some sort of malware which can harm your system. Then we have remote support, which enables support and troubleshooting for endpoints for an administrator sitting in a very unanimous environment. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where your office is based. You can easily control. If an organization has branch office, you can easily control those systems while sitting at the head office with this key feature of Endpoint Secure. Then we have SaaS management, where it manages and secures software as service applications. Imagine keeping track of all the streaming services you subscribe to and ensuring they are all secure. You also have on-prem management, which provides management tools for on-premises setups where people want to isolate their network away from internet. Then we have logging and report and open API, which provides detailed logging and reporting with the integration capabilities. It's like detailed diary of everything happening in your home, which you can share with your trusted friends in an environment. Now, all of these attacks happen, and when they happen, we are unaware. What we can do, first of all, before an attack happens, which is pre-execution, we have real-time file scanning, which scans the accessed and downloaded data on our system. Then we have lightweight scanning, which performs quick scans without burdening system resources. We have heuristics, which analyzes behavior to detect new threats based on their actions. It's like noticing unusual behavior in someone and realizing they might be up to no good. Then we have ML detection, which uses machine learning models to detect threat based on patterns and anomalies that are ongoing in your system. Further, we have trusted processes. We can ensure only verified processes are allowed to execute. And if there is something that we trust is executable, we can add an exception for it as well. Then we have key directory protection, where you can monitor and protect critical directories from any unauthorized accesses. Think of it as locking up your valuables in a safe and only allowing trustable people to access it. After the pre-execution, we have peri-execution. For peri-execution, Sangfor Endpoint Secure offers exploit detection, where it detects and blocks exploited attempts targeting the software vulnerabilities. It's like having sensors that detect when someone is trying to pick the lock on your door and it beeps. Then Sangfor has in-memory protection. It protects against the threats that operate in the system memory. Imagine a vigilant security guard who keeps an eye on everything happening inside your house, not just the entrances. Sangfor works like that. We have file-less attack protection, where targeted threats don't use files but operate purely in memory. So it's like catching a thief who sneaks into your house without leaving a footprint. So Sangfor catches that fileless attack and protects the system from it. Then we have web shell protection, which detects and blocks web shells used for remote access and control. Think of it as securing hidden passageways that intruders might use to access in your system. Then we have dynamic behavior analysis, where it analyzes the programs in real-time environment to detect malicious activities based on their behavior. Then, as Mr. Hadi explained, honeypot, Sangfor uses a decoy system to lure attackers and study their methods and ultimately blocks them, which is honeypot. Then we have a post-execution detection phase for an attack, for an hacker or for any intruder. For that we have behavior and telemetry data collection, where the Sangfor system detects and collects data and analyzes the behavior and detects those anomalies. It basically researches them and finds a better solution and better fix for our system. Then we have RDP secondary authentication, which adds an extra layer of authentication for remote desktop protocol. It's like no one can access your computer in Sangfor unless some request comes up and you actually accept that request. Once a user allows the person to access their desktop, only then that person will be able to gain remote access. That's how RDP secondary authentication works. Then we have brute force attack detection, where it detects and blocks attempts to crack password through brute force. We also have bot miner detection, which identifies and mitigates botnets activity and unauthorized cryptocurrency mining that might be going on in your system. Then we have APT detection, which focuses on identifying and mitigating long-term targeted attacks. We also have a global TI cloud and sandboxing, which uses global threat intelligence and cloud-based sandboxing to analyze the potential threats in your system. After the post-execution detection, we have post-execution responses as well, with Sangfor Endpoint Secure, which is file quarantine. It isolates and contains malicious files to prevent further spread. It's like locking up a suspicious package in a secure room until it's safe to handle. We have file backup, which maintains backup of our critical files and facilitates recovery as well, in case in some sort of hazard happens with the system. We have file remediation, which repairs or removes malicious files and restores affected system. It's like you can say cleaning up a spill and making sure everything is back to normal. We have endpoint isolation, which isolates compromised endpoints to prevent the spread of infection. Think of it as quarantining a sick person to prevent them from infecting others in your family. We have a one-click network-wide response, which enables quick and coordinated responses across the entire network. It's like pressing a button to lock all the doors and windows in your house at once if there is an intruder. Then Sangfor also offers automatic response based on playbook, which is based on predefined playbook, ensuring that consistent and rapid actions are taken care of. It's like having a detailed emergency plan that everyone in the house follows automatically when a hazard happens. So Sangfor Endpoint Secure offers this comprehensive and layered approach to endpoint security, addressing every phase of attack from prevention to response. By leveraging these advanced technologies, integrating multiple security features, it ensures that our organization endpoints are protected against a wide range of threats. So this is it for Endpoint Secure. I would like to request Mr. Fawzan, our technical support engineer, and he will show us how the interface for Endpoint Secure looks like and how the functionalities work. Over to you, Mr. Fawzan.
Thank you, Sunay. That was quite a brief explanation, right? Let me just quickly share my screen and we'll jump in to
Yes,
have an
please.
overview of the UI.
We can see your screen, Mr. Fawad. Mr. Fawzan, you are not audible if you are speaking.
Hello,
Hello,
am I
yes,
audible
you
now?
are. Yes, you are audible now, Mr. Fawzan.
All right. So once you log into the Endpoint Secure interface, here is where you're going to land on. This is considered as the dashboard or the home page, which gives you the executive summary detailing what is happening in and around your organization. On the top left side, you will find the number of endpoints which have the Endpoint Secure installed on them. On the right side, this is the integration with the platform X, which is nothing but centralized control for all the different security platforms that it has, Sangfor. The next part would be the detection and response. Under the detection and response, you have an overview section wherein you will find in detail regarding all the detections within your organization, whether be it web shell or memory backdoors or any type of brute force attacks or any suspicious logins. If you want to have a in-depth view, you can just click on each of them and you'll have a detailed overview of it. Now, since this particular endpoint secure has been applied on temporary and testing environment, we might not see much of the detections over here. But yes, there would be a few of the detections that you might be able to see. Right. So for an example, you have a detection here on one of the PC. Uh, to understand it in the detail, you just need to click on it and it gives you in detail how the process was executed and from where it began. Moving forward, these are the targeted endpoints. For an instance, if there are 100 number of endpoints in your organization, and if any particular endpoint has been targeted and there have been multiple attacks which has been launched against it, would be populated under this section, so that you have an understanding that if a particular PC is being targeted by the hackers to first gain the access and then have the little movement in your organization. Moving forward, we have threat hunting to have a deeper dig of the detections in your environment. You can define it as per the group conditions, IP address, and then you can define what kind of details are you searching for. Once you click here, you will have an option to define the source IP or the source port or the destination, or if you're trying to find any particular detection which have been there or was in your environment to understand what was the reason for it to occur. Moving forward, you have the point response. Under response, you'll have a section called endpoint isolation. So for an instance, if there is a detection in your organization and you have a particular system on which the infection has been detected and you don't want that detection to be spreading in your environment. So what you can do is you can just create a new, define that asset IP and isolate it so that it prevents the further spread of the malware into your organization. So isolation is nothing but it's just like keeping a person under a quarantine, like in during COVID-19 situation. Moving forward, we have a file quarantines. Any files which have been quarantined would pop up here under the host access. If there have been any access control list which has been defined and the attackers have tried to take the control of it over, would be mentioned over here. Under the process killing, the Sangfor detects if there are any malicious process in your organization, and it automatically kills that process so that the infection does not spread further. So any of those processes which are being killed would be displayed over here. Similarly, for the domain blocking, it restricts the DNS request by the compromised endpoints to malicious domain to ensure the endpoints cannot access these malicious domains. It basically does not gives the DNS to be resolved so that they cannot jump from one PC to your other PC. Then you have coordinated response here. That's going to take some time. All right. Under this, you can restrict the communication between the processes so that it stops your lateral movement in your organization. You have behavioral blocking and threat removal details, which you can find in here. Under the security logs, you can file all type of logs that have been created for every detection in your organization. For an instance, if you don't want a malware, if you want to check if there has been any ransomware attack or any intrusion detection in your environment, or was there any vulnerability scan which have been run, any type of security logs that you require with respect to this particular subdomains, you can just click on it and see if there has been any detection within your organization within a time frame that you want to define from here. Moving forward, as explained in the risk assessments, there is a hot patching which is available for the legacy systems. Now, for an instance, in most of the other endpoint security software, this option is not available, wherein Sangfor jumps and takes in the advantages part over. So what Sangfor does is, for an instance, if you have a Windows XP in your environment, or if you have any Windows 2012 in your environment, so what does this do is they create a it creates a temporary patching for your those legacy systems so that they are not more vulnerable to the environment. So this is basically one of the USPs of Sangfor Endpoint Security, which no other endpoints provide at this moment in the market. Now, once you have the vulnerability assessment done, you have a number of vulnerabilities mentioned over here. Then the next part would be the remediation part, right? So for an instance, there is one of the system which has the Windows XP installed on it. And here the Windows has already disabled the or has ended the product support. Now how do we protect this system? Now since this is old, we do not have any support from the vendor, so we are open and vulnerable. For an instance, if there is any service which has been published in your organization and it specifically requires an older version of Windows that needs to be run on it, so that's where this comes into the picture. It has very simple fix. You just need to click on the asset on which the vulnerability has been detected, and on the right side you have an operation section wherein you have a button called fix. Once you try to click it, it patches the vulnerability for you. You just go here, select it, and patch it. That's it. Now comes the compliance check. Now, compliance check is where you can define a certain number of assets. Now, let me just quickly select it for you. All right, so I have associated this with the general policy to check what is the condition of my endpoints which are in my organization. So this might take us some time. In the meantime, we'll just try to jump in and to and fro. We'll move to the defense part. Now, the defense part is your malware scanning. Any details that you wish to see regarding the malware with respect to the ransomware, crypto mining, backdoor, or worms, you can find the details over here in the defense. Here you can filter it through your endpoint name, IP owner, virus name, infected entity, and moreover, you have multiple filters that you can apply to find it the correct information that you're identifying for. Further, manually you can create a task for the malware scan through your cloud. All you need to do is just click on the scan, which scan you wish to provide, whether it's a full scan, for scan, or the quick scan. You just need to click, select your devices, click OK, and select the CPU usage. Again, this is one of the USP for the Sangfor endpoint, wherein you have an option to select what type of CPU usage you require. For an instance, if you require the endpoint malware scan to take higher number of your resources, just click on high CPU. Or if you want it to be adaptive, you can just click adaptive or click low as per your preference. So most of the endpoints today in the market, we do not have this feature wherein we can just click and select the number of resources according to our requirement, because not all systems would have sufficient resources to make a scan at the priority. Moving forward, we'll have the endpoint section. Under this endpoint section, you will find all the endpoints group, its inventory, its discovery, or integrity monitoring. Now let's see, under this endpoint section, what are the devices listed? So there are two groups mainly which were created. One is the assets group. These are the devices which were not put into the group. That's why you are seeing in the assets section. And in this group, Rawad IT Solutions, you are seeing these two pieces because they were assigned a group. Now let's see, what are the information that we can access through here, right? So if you want to see more options regarding to remotely control the agent on a device, that can be done through the cloud. It's just done by clicking here, just select the device, and you have the option click enable agent. Right. Once I click on any of the option, it's going to execute on the endpoint, that is the end device. The next is under the more options, you have more. If you wish to shut down the endpoint, or if you wish to restart, or if you wish to send us message for the end user to see, for an instance, if there is a restart required, or there is a important update that needs to be done for the endpoint solution, and you just need to check whether the end user is working on it, and there is some critical data that is currently not been saved. So you can just send a message through here, and that would pop up on their endpoint side. Right. If you wish to see more details regarding this particular device or this particular device, let's say, just click on it and it will get you to the device details in depth. Yes. Right. So this is the endpoint name. It gives you the IP address, the MAC address, the database versions, what is currently on that particular endpoint. And in depth, it also gives you what's the hardware, what is the account, and in depth, there is also another USP for the Sangfor endpoint. They give you in-depth detail regarding the listening ports, more trusted certificates, what kind of certificates are there on your device, what are the jar files on your device, and what are the softwares installed on that particular device. So this is something unique to Sangfor again. Now moving forward, there is a section called trust. And in this trust section, you will find any trusted files that you have made it as an exclusion so that they are not being scanned in the future through the endpoints. Again, you have more options for this particular device. For an instance, if you want to control the endpoint of this particular device, once you open the details of this particular device, on the top right corner, you will find more options for you. And here we have a remote support option wherein you need to download a plugin on the endpoint agent system. So once you install this endpoint agent plugin, you would be able to initiate a remote control support directly for that particular PC. Now, endpoint inventory. As mentioned, they have the asset management and the inventory options here. In depth, you will have a screen wherein it will define what kind of ports, what kind of operating system, what number of applications are opened on your endpoint, uh, endpoints, basically all the endpoints in your organization. This would take some time, and here you go. So there are a total number of 103 ports which have been detected on the 4 endpoints which have been installed. You have in-depth information such as the number of processes running on them, what are the number of softwares installed, what are the services which are running on them, what are the operating systems, and how many are the number of users that have been created on those PCs. Environment variables. So basically, this gives you an overview of your organization's system details. This is another USP for Endpoint Secure. Now, the other section is endpoint discovery. Now, for an instance, there could be endpoints which were not detected earlier, or you might have not connected them to the cloud and you wish them to be connected to the cloud so that they are being managed through here. Now that's really simple. You just need to define how many systems are there in your organization which does not have the endpoints installed. You need to click scan here, select the device you're trying to search. If it's mentioned here, you can just directly select it, or if it's not, you just click here. You just need to enter the IP range in which you wish to scan. Once you enter that IP range, you just need to click on OK, and that's when it starts to detect all the endpoints or the PCs on which the protection is not installed within that particular IP range, so that you have an idea, okay, these number of PCs in my organization does not have the security and I need to install on them. Moving forward, we have integrity monitor. Now this basically what it does is any hardware changes on a computer will be monitored through this section. Once you select the time range, for an instance, so the time range is there, then you can select what type of changes are done on that particular. For an instance, you wish to see how many graphics cards were installed in your organization, right? A new graphics card. So you just need to click graphics. You need to select whether this change has been a new, or the endpoint type was PC, and then the group. Once you do that, any hardware changes in your organization for this particular sub topic will be listed for you. Now, this is the main part of endpoint security. That's the policies where we define what type of security we require, what should be the action done on a detection, and how it should be carried on. Now, once you click on the general selection or the general policies, you have an overview page of all the policies here. Under the asset attributes, you can define what type of information is required and what needs to be displayed on an endpoint. Further, administration contact information. Here you can enter the administrator detail so that if an endpoint user wishes to contact the administrator so that they wish to access a USB which has been blocked by endpoint security, And if they require an exception, they can directly see this information on the endpoint agent and reach out to the administrator for an exception. Moving forward, you will have a notifications tab, and in this notifications, you can mute notifications. So this will not give any notification to the endpoint user if there are any detections, but rather you will be able to see under this uh, security event section and under the threat hunting section. Further, there is another security protocol wherein all the IT administrators assign an exit password and an installation password on their endpoints. Now, why do we do that? So we basically do that to prevent any unauthorized access or removal of our endpoints from the systems, right? So by default, you can select the existing password which was created, or if you wish to change the password, just type in and then change the password. Now, this password is compulsory if you wish to uninstall it from any device, the endpoints. Now, just in case if you forgot the password, you can come back, log into your endpoint manager. Then you need to come to this section, general policies, click this I button, and it will show you the assigned password. There is another password section for the password authentication of the trusted files. As mentioned earlier, you can create a list of the trusted files. And for an instance, if those trusted files are critical for your business and you do not want any unauthorized access, you can define a password through here as well. Moving forward, under behavioral data and logs, you can enable log data collection and reporting, which will enable you to troubleshoot any endpoints in the future, or if you wish to see the complete detection and understand what is going on in the organization with parts of to the security, you can just check in this. Then this is for the endpoint behavior data collection. You need to check in this and just click save. Once you click save, all these settings mentioned on this page would be saved. Now moving forward, you have anti-malware settings. That is the anti-malware engine which scans your PC for any detections. Now this is the passive scanning or the scanning, what you say, that you can run manually for your system defense. You can schedule it. You can just select how do you want to schedule, by day, week, month, the time, and do you wish for a quick or a full scan, and then what type of CPU usage you require. And that's it. Once you do it, it will run as per the schedule. Moving forward, what type of malwares can you require and what type of file types you wish that needs to be detected, that can be modified as per your requirement. Now, for an instance, you do not wish to scan any scripts. You just uncheck it, it won't scan it. So ideally, for security purpose, all the components are selected so that at least even if there are low risk files in your organization or your systems are notified to you and you can take a better decision for it. Moving forward, there is a section called action. Now we have enabled this security. Now there is a detection in the organization. What what needs to be done from these endpoint security end? What action do you want it to take? If you want it to just report it to you, okay, just report it to me. I don't want anything to be done. So you just click no action and proceed. So there are further two options here. One is the security first, wherein the fixed files which are considered as threat would be fixed. For an instance, here all the malicious files or all the detections in your organizations would be automatically fixed. It will not wait for your response, which means the security first, obviously. Now, if you do not want to disrupt your business production hours. And if you want it to fix only the one which are file based and confirmed, then you need to select business continuity first. That again, it depends on your requirement and your organization. Moving forward, you can even select the type of engines that it can use for the scanning. Now, engine 0 is again a USP for Sangfor here. Engine 0 is the AI based engine for Sangfor. The gene analytic engine, behavioral analytic, and cloud based engine are all again another components wherein different endpoints such as Bitdefender and Kaspersky have adaptive anomaly or the application anomaly in place. Sangfor has its own behavioral analytic engine wherein it basically analyzes a behavior of an application or a file in your environment and matches it through its own database and see whether it's working as intended. So just in case if there is any suspicious activity, it will be detected and reported to you. Furthermore, in the CPU usage, you can define what kind of scanning you wish to provide, which is like, okay, if your system does not have sufficient resources, for an instance, if your endpoints wherein your client agents uses the PC, they have only 8 GB of RAM or say 4 GB of RAM, that's like kind of low, right? So if you wish to restrict the CPU usage, you can do that as well. Moving forward, the database engine, the first defined server IP is the Sangfor's IP. Through here, it is where it is going to take the updates just like any other endpoint update servers, right? Sangfor has its own and the signatures and the data has been updated through this server directly. So there is another option via the manager. So just in case if you have an on-prem solution on your side for the Sangfor Endpoint Secure, you can just select the via the manager so that it takes through that particular manager. So this anti-malware was for existing files on your system, right? So when we move to the real-time protection, it is the live protection that you're getting on your system. So for an instance, if you try to download any file from the websites, or if you copy a file from your USB to your desktop, or somebody is trying to share a file from their PC to your PC. Now this is where this real-time protection comes into the picture. Again, it would have the same settings as the anti-malware settings, where you can define what type of protection you require, whether you want a higher level of protection for the live real-time protection. You just need to click high, and then you need to select what type of files you wish it to scan. Again, you can select or deselect any particular file if you wish to deselect. In the scan options, you also have this. If you wish to skip any particular file of a certain size, you can just define that size so that it says that if the file is greater than this size, that needs to be skipped and not be scanned. Moving forward, you can even select the engines for real-time protection. Engine 0, Gene Analytic, Behavioral, and Cloud-based engine. So you can select all the engines as per your security requirement. And again, the action would be your selection here. Ideally, it's selected to be business continuity first so that your production is not hurt while there is a detection. So to balance that, we usually select business continuity first. Moving forward, now there is a subheading called hack tool protection. So what does it do? Here, there is a time range that you can define. Now, for an instance, after the office working hours, if there are any new drivers which are being installed suspiciously or without any information to the IT admin, so you can just define the time and just enable the setting. So if there are any type of suspicious drivers which are being installed during this particular hour, would be detected and blocked automatically. That's just another layer of security provided by Sangfor. Now, let's see what is the hack tools. It basically blocks any hacking tools. For an instance, there are key loggers, there are key generators, they are temporary fixes, or for the gaming industry, there are many hack tools that you use, right? So all those tiny hack tools can be blocked directly by the Sangfor once you click on block hack tools. Now, this web shell protection, for an instance, if there is a web shell which has been used in your organization and you enable this, for any unauthorized or any malware type of web shell detection, it will pop you out a message stating that there has been detection for you. You need to take an action, or if you want it to auto fix, it can do it for you. Further, under the brute force attack, as mentioned earlier, you have RDP brute force. This is another USP for Sangfor, wherein Sangfor provides an additional layer of security when you're trying to access the RDP protocol, which is nothing but remote desktop protocol. For an instance, if you're trying to access another system in your organization, right? So you will have to ideally enter an ID or a password of the administrator, or your username and ID password to log into to the other system. Now, once I enable this, it will require another step of authentication or another layer of protection for your RDP's PCs. Now, what you can do is, for an instance, if somebody is trying to move horizontally in your network, for an instance, if a hacker has gained an access for a particular system, right? So hacker scans your network and finds there are, okay, these are the number of other IPs of the PCs which are currently online, and I can propagate to the PCs. So what they'll try to do is, they'll try to basically, now since they have the login and the password for a particular user, they will use the same login to access the other PCs, right? Now, for an instance, if you have already enabled this RDP brute force, so what happens, even though they enter the first ID and password, they are forced to enter the second ID and password to access the other PCs. Now, if they don't do it, if they cannot enter the correct password for more than 15 times, you can directly block that particular IP address in your environment, which means the hacker wouldn't be able to propagate horizontally again. You can either block it for 30 minutes, or you just need it to be reported to you. That's completely on you. But it's ideally recommended that you block that PC for 60 minutes. Moving forward, you have even SMB brute force attack for file sharing protection. And similarly, you have it for your database MSQL brute force attack protection. Now, again, somebody is trying to crack your database by entering incorrect passwords multiple times. Again, if the wrong password has been entered for certain number of times, again, it will detect, and again, it would require the particular action to be executed on it. There is another USP for Sangfor here. It's called suspicious login detection. So what does it do? You can define a certain time in your organization. For an instance, after the logout hours of the employees, nobody is in the office and nobody should be accessing one or the other PCs. Similarly, you can define between 7 p.m. in the evening to the 8 a.m. in the morning tomorrow. If somebody logs in within this time frame, it needs to be notified, as this is suspicious login. And you want to investigate further, why was this login done at this odd time, right? Because most of the time the attackers try to attack uh, after the office hours, so that there is no one to stop their attacks. Moving forward, you have fileless attack protection, wherein any PowerShell scripts which do not have files and they just try to execute themselves are instantly blocked by Sangfor. You can either type in the block script execution or no action required on it. Further, anti-ransomware, which is another USP for Sangfor. Sangfor is known to block an ransomware within 3 seconds of its launch. Now, how does it achieve that? With the help of the honeypots that it designed. Not all the endpoints or most of the endpoints do not provide you honeypots. What Sangfor does here is, for an instance, if you have 50 pieces in your organization, it will create another 5 honeypots for the hacker, right? So that the hacker assumes, all right, these are 55 pieces and I can attack 55 of them. But once the hacker accesses the honeypot, eventually the Sangfor can immediately block the hacker and stop it from moving horizontal again in your environment. Now, for an instance, if there has been a ransomware attack already in your organization, now what do you do? Sangfor has an option to recover your encrypted files. Now, for an instance, to explain this further, when the ransomware is happening, what Sangfor does is it immediately starts backing up all your files which are being encrypted under the ransomware attack. So once you enable this, it will immediately back them up during the attack. And once the attack is completed and you have mitigated the attack and stopped complete attack and you want to restore your files. Okay, these were the files which were started to get encrypted. You can restore those files. You can set a password for those files. You just need to click on change password, assign your password, and you will have it to restore. Okay, here is one another point, the backup repository. What type of file size you wish. You can enter as per the largest file that you have in your organization, or you can just define a random, all right, this is the maximum file size that I wish to backup. Now, here is where the secondary authentication takes place. As mentioned earlier, if you enable the RDP security, once I click enable, for any remote access, there would be a secondary authentication for which you can set the password here. You can set the password and you can set at what time this needs to be turned on and at what time this needs to be turned off, right? Once you define this and click save, it will save your settings, and the next time you try to access within this time frame, it will ask you for a secondary authentication. Now there is a list of whitelisting of IP address that can be done. Now if you want a certain number of IPs, such as your higher ups, like your higher managers, who do not want any type of security on their PC for the secondary authentication and they want to be freely accessing other PCs, right? So, or the IT admin who's trying to access the other PCs, you can whitelist those IPs here so that those IPs are excluded from this secondary authentication. Here, another point is trusted processes. Now, trusted process is something, if there is any particular application in your environment which is safe and you know that, okay, this has been published by our organization and is safe, you can add those processes here. You need to click the start button, you need to follow the path, and that's how you go to add it. Once it's added, it will be a trusted process. Moving further, there is a trust list that you can create for the applications. Yeah, first is the brute force attack protection whitelist. So if you wish to add a whitelist for your brute force attacks, Just add a new IP address, click new, and it would be excluded from the IP addresses. Another thing, if you have any PowerShell parameters list, or if you know there are certain scripts PowerShell that you're going to run in your organization and those are safe, you can mention them here as an exception, because if you turn on the PowerShell protection from the real-time protection side, again those PowerShell scripts would be blocked. So to unblock those and give them the access, you need to give it as an exception over here. Moving forward, under the general settings, you will have two major settings, that is the agent bypass, quarantine management settings. Under the quarantine management settings, you can define to give a file size limit to quarantine manager. If you do not wish to give it a size, you just leave it as it is on no limit. So your quarantine management won't have any size and it will store files as much possible if required. Okay, there is another option, that is agent bypass. Now, for an instance, if there is a agent which is running on an particular PC, and if that particular PC has reached to its limit, so and so, right? So, if that particular PC has reached its limit, then it will try to stop the task such as malware scan task to ensure that your PCs are working fine and they are not being overloaded with more and more scanning tasks. Right? You can define your exceptions here for the main process, that is the EDR agent. For your threat agent, if you want certain limitations, for instance, if the CPU usage is greater than 20 or your used memory is greater than 120 megabytes or so. Right? Another important setting here, intelligent identification of developed environment. Now, what does this do? Now, when you turn this on, the agent will give you the alerts regarding the behaviors which it identifies that are secure. Now, for an instance, there is a detection in your environment, but it evaluates that file, whether this file is really harmful for your organization or your PC or not, so that it can keep on working and give you less number of false positives. Moving forward, you have vulnerability remediation settings. Okay, it's taking quite some time. Right. So these are the settings from where you will enable the hard patching settings on an endpoint, right? You just go to vulnerability remediation. You need to enable this hard patching. Now, what do you want would be your call here. Whether you want it to be restarting the endpoints, whether you want it to be reminding the users to restart their PC, that's completely on you. So you can even send out a notification, a custom. All right. I am the IT admin and I want you to restart so and so. You can just customize this as per your requirement and you can just throw up a message to an endpoint user. Okay, now this vulnerability scanning and patching can be scheduled. That's obvious. We would not want this to be running during the peak hours or the production hours, right? This should be done when there is a minimal usage of the PC, because that's going to take some kind of resources on your endpoint, right? So you can define per day if you wish to scan the pieces for the daily, weekly, or monthly as per your requirement. Once you define this, automatically at this schedule, it will start scanning and patching. Now, if you want the patches to be automatically fixed, what kind of patches you want to be applied? Of high severity, medium, low. Again, you want all patches to be applied. Doesn't matter if it's a Windows server on your environment or if it's a Windows PC, or if your wish to manually apply on your Windows server, then only select Windows PC. Furthermore, now this is where Sangfor takes the patches from. Now, Sangfor has a team of experts who try to scans the vulnerabilities to and fro frequently, and they are working 24/7 to create these certified patches from Sangfor, right? So this hot batching is done by the experts patches which are being released from Sangfor. Last but not the least, the endpoint control. You can add a watermark, you can change the, okay. Okay, in this endpoint control, you can define your USB device controls. If you wish to provide or block access, you can define those policies here under this USB device control. Now, under this, there is an option called whitelist. If there is a USB or a hard disk of your organization, which you think is important, and you wish to assign it as an exception, you just need to click uh, how to get the device ID, download an application of Sangfor. It will give you the device ID for that particular USB or the hard drive. You just need to enter it, and type the remarks and click new. It will add it as an exception. So it doesn't matter if this is in the progress and this USB and drives are blocked, this will not be blocked any of the exception drives or USBs that you allow. But you need to be sure those are safe, because if these are compromised whitelist, then it would be harmful for your organization. So you need to ensure those devices are added only which are safe, and you monitor them regularly. Now here is another USB for Sangfor, right? So Sangfor allows you to change the logo for Sangfor Endpoint Secure. You can customize this logo as per your requirement. You can even change the name from Endpoint Secure Agent to your customized name. uh, To, for an example, IT Security. If you wish like this, and if you wish to change the file logo, then you can upload the logo, then you can change the icon if you want, and just upload and save. Once you apply, this will all be applied to the endpoints installed in the organization. As far as I know, I haven't heard that any of the endpoint solutions provide this kind of white labeling to us, right? It gives us an opportunity to change it as per our office icon, or you can change it to anything. That ensures even if the system is hacked, the hacker would not be able to trace this. All right, so this is not the Sangfor Endpoint Secure. This is some customized logo. I don't really know how to find it. So he has to do some homework when he tries to, hack into your systems again. Furthermore, the detection policies. In under this detection policies, there are file hashes that you can add. For an instance, if there were any previous detections in your environment which have from which you have extracted the MD5 or the SHA value, you can just click here, enter the file hash, and define what kind of detection it was. And you can define, okay, this kind of detection, if it's in my environment, what I want to do, all I want to do is alert or allow, or I can fix it, I can block it right away. So let's do this, alert and fix, because these type of detections were there earlier in my environment, right? So I have an idea, okay, this was the breach last time before Sangfor Endpoint Secure. All right, I'll just add it here as an exception. All right, I can add it. Or if you have a database of file hashes at your end and you wish to add it here, you can do that as well. But it should be one hash in each line. You can import the hashes. If you have an Excel sheet, you can just go to browse again, apply. You can do the bulk import as well. Or if you wish to export file hashes from here, any file hashes listed here would be exported. All right. If there are any web shell directories in your environment that you do not wish to be scanned, let's do Windows, so and so is my web shell directory, and the scope is so and so endpoints. You just defined it and select it. Moving forward, exclusions again. When we have detections, we even want the exclusions part as well, right? You don't want everything to be scanned. You don't want everything to be detected for a virus. There could be critical data or there could be critical finds in the organization that you do not want the endpoints to access. You can give those exclusions through here, right? You can either go through the extensions. You can give the file name .exe, .xl, XX, or you can give the Word document exception or any type of file format exception that you wish to give. You can give it through here. Now, if you don't want the file extension exception, you can give the paths. You can just define the path by clicking here and entering here the complete file path and defining the remark for it, then click OK. The applicable scope is necessary to select whether you want this to be implied on a particular asset in your device environment or the complete organization. You need to select your scope, enter the path, tap OK. That's it. You're good to go. Now, if there were any indicator of attacks which were excluded as per our exclusions, then that would be popped up here for your information. No, again, if there were any whitelist for the events on a particular system, you have created that, okay, these type of events shouldn't be detected. You can find out here. The next part is the behavioral control. Here you can add a watermark. You can add a custom text. You can assign where do you want to show this watermark. For an example, you can see the watermark over here. You can define that. Now, on which applicable scope you can apply this? You can select, okay, on all these devices, I want this watermark. And I select excluded endpoints if there are any. And then at what time I wish to apply this watermark, then save. It would apply. The next part would be the application control. Now we have seen the real-time file protection, and then we have checked out the USB control, and now we have application control. There would be a number of applications in our organization which needs to be whitelisted, right? Because each of the organization are using a number of third-party applications for to execute their daily task on a day-to-day basis, right? Now, those applications cannot be blocked at any time because that would affect the protection. You can add it as an exception, or if you want a particular list of application that needs to be blocked, you can add it here. Just go what kind of application you want to block in your organization. Let's say you want Firefox not to be installed, or you want Max than the world, or you don't want anyone to use WinRAR or install WinRAR in your organization. You can just blacklist that app. Again, select your scope on all the devices, excluded endpoints if any exclusion that you wish to give, schedule it. Okay. Within this time of or during the non-working hours, nobody should install any these kind of apps, right? You just select it, define it, and just tap OK, and it would be working and it would be in the place. Now, here is application signatures. You can go with the default app signatures. The Sangfor has a few of them inbuilt in them. Now, for an instance, let's see here. Firefox. Firefox is an open source. Now, this endpoint knows that Firefox is a web browser. Similarly, you can define your own signature here. Type in your software name that you are using in your organization, type in the description and the app group, then you want what kind of detections to be done, whether you want all the child processes or not. You just select it, select what you are trying to create, whether it's a process name that you want to give, or the icon hash, or the product name that you wish to create a signature. You need to fill in the details and tap OK. That's how your endpoint would understand, okay, fine, this is a known application to me, I shouldn't be bothering this application. Now, there is another policy here. What is it? Metering policies. Now, if there is, for an instance, I have, for an instance, let's say this game, right? So you don't want anyone in your organization to be playing for a certain number of time, or you want, let's say, hmm, all right, let's say VLC media. All right, you don't want anyone to use this, and you want them to take your permission if they're trying to use that, right? This is another USP for Sangfor, which has been launched recently in the latest version 6.0.2, right? Wherein we can meterize them and we can type authorization. What kind of authorization does it require? Let's add the devices. Let's select which are the endpoints which are licensed. Let's see. I'll just select one group. Then I'll have a group where I can in depth select the devices. Then what are the license? What are the expiration date? You can allow it and define. Once you do that, it will give you an update, certain license details updates on you. You can click on license alert. Under the alert notifications, it will keep updating you. Okay, these are the applications installed in your organization that you have defined, and this is the date on which it is going to expire, and you have to renew it. So once you do that, it will give you that information. Furthermore, there is a subsection called software and installation. And this, if you wish to remove any third-party software using your endpoint, you can create a task under software and installation, and it will execute that task for you. This is another USP for Sangfor Endpoint Secure. Moving further, now we have gone through the policies. What are the security protocols that we can employ on our endpoints? Now, the another part would be, how do we deploy this in our environment, right? So ideally, there are two options mostly on all the endpoints through which they can be deployed. So one is uh, the manual process, that is nothing but by downloading the agent and then distributing it in your environment. Another would be to send an download link to the user's email address through which they can directly download and install those applications. So to download manually, you just click here, and then there are two types of installations. All right. And one is manual, which is nothing but you have to click on it and you have to proceed through all of the screens that you have during the installation. On the other part, there is silent installation. What does it do? It does not require your intervention. It will automatically download, it will automatically install your endpoint secure and let you know, all right, this has been installed. All you need to do is just click download and it will start downloading your endpoint agent like this. So once I click it, it has started to download endpoint agent. It's quite small. It's around 20 to 30 megabyte for installer. Once you double click on it, it will go through the Endpoint Secure web server to download the rest of the installer. That would be another small size, that would be around 100 to 200 MB approximately. Okay, so this is one, and there is another one. What you can do is you can directly go to the Sangfor community and then download it through there. Now, the Sangfor community requires you approval through the Sangfor administrators. Now, who are the Sangfor administrators? That is the vendor. So if you require the access of community.sangfor.com, you will need to have a word with your vendor. And if you could get the access to it, you can download it through there as well. Now, this is the part where you can modify the email and then you can send the distribution link to all the users in your environment. You just need to define, then click next, enter the list of email addresses, then click next, and it will send you all the links. All right. So there is another option called for the bulk deployment, right? So for the bulk deployment, you can either create MSI installer or the exe installer that needs to be implemented through your Active Directory, right? If you don't have Active Directory, what is then alternative? You can try through desktop management software as well. You just need to click here. There will be a management software that you will be downloading. Once it pops up, you can define your settings and voila, there you go. It starts pushing the agents on all the devices. All right, let's move to the next section, that's system updates. Now, this is another granular level of display of the information, I would say, of all the endpoints in your organization, which I still find unique with Sangfor. I haven't found it here for the others yet. All right, so what's the features? Here you can directly see the PC name, the IP address, the version here that is currently on that particular device, and the current version which has been released. I can directly check, okay, so this is the latest version. Let me just quickly see if all the pieces are up to date or not. You can just click here and see the agent version by yourself. Or if you want to see a particular system in your environment, just type the endpoint name or the IP address and it would fetch that endpoint detail for you. Another section is signature basis, right? All of the databases require signatures to be updated, right? Again, you have a signature database version number mentioned over here on each of the device. Then you have the latest version displayed above. You can just watch that and see that it's up to date. And please note that all the updates for Sangfor endpoints are taken automatically. You do not need to manually go and update the endpoint applications. Now, moving forward, there is a vulnerability database, as mentioned earlier, which is curated by the Sangfor experts, working 24/7, right? So what's the database version currently they have? This is the database version. All right. Is this the same vulnerability database on all my endpoints? Yes. Right. This is just to provide you a granular level of information on what exactly is happening in your environment, which is critical for a system admin or an IT admin or cybersecurity expert to understand. All right, my endpoints are up to date. And all right, then the next part of my worry would be the firewall. I need to check with the parameters of my firewall to work upon it. Similarly, to uh, have a peace of mind, we have these options integrated. Now, let's say what is integrated devices? As mentioned earlier, few of the another third party vendors such as let's say Sophos or Bitdefender, they have their own central manager, right? Through where you can integrate your multiple solutions into one. Similarly, for Sangfor, there is a centralized platform that we call is at x.sangfor.com. That is platform X. Now, all these different solutions can be integrated in platform X for your centralized control. Similarly, if you want to add a particular device for the MDR solution or the XDR solution and wish to integrate, you just need to enter the device details and integrate it with the corp ID. This corp ID is nothing but a corporate ID which is given to your email address, and it will be unique to each and every individual. So you are identified in Sangfor by your corp ID and your email address, right? So you can just directly type in the corp ID, then the device ID and the password, and click next. And you wish to enable the centralized reporting, you can just do that.
Okay, thank you, Fazan, for all this extensive explanation regarding Sangfor Endpoint Secure. Let's move towards Q&A, and we have experts from Sangfor with us to answer any questions that our audience have. Guys, can you guys open your mic and ask any questions if you have, or you can type them in the chat. While you guys are typing your questions or asking any questions, let me add to our today's webinar that there will be future webinars in continuation to this one, where we will be explaining further in detail how all these functions that were mentioned today, that were briefed today, how do they actually work with live simulations as well. So anyone has any question regarding today's webinar regarding Sangfor Endpoint Secure? We have Mr. Farooq Khatib from Sangfor with us to answer any question that you guys have.
Yeah, just a quick announcement regarding the second webinar, inshallah, that we'll be having soon. In that webinar, inshallah, we'll be trying to cover how does this Sangfor endpoint really work on its words, right? Now, for an instance, we have been talking about the ransomware protection, the real-time protection. That is where we are going to stress test live in front of you guys, inshallah, to show you the capabilities of the Sangfor in live environment, so that that will give you a brief understanding of, yes, it's just not about talking or explanation about the Sangfor, but yes, it does really, keep up to the word that it says. Yes, so if anybody has any questions regarding Sangfor, please come forward and we'll be happy to answer those for you.
For latecomers who have joined late and want to know what happened basically in this webinar, I have shared a link for YouTube in the chat so that they can watch the whole webinar again. Since no one has any questions, I guess we can call it a day. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you everyone. Thank you everyone for joining for today's session.
Thank you everyone. It has been a pleasure taking a session for you guys. And inshallah, just in case if you require any offline video, that would be available on our YouTube channel, inshallah, we'll be uploading on it as well. So yeah, it would be available for offline usage as well. So anybody who has joined later can have a view of it. Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure again.